Well, thanks, Richard, for inviting Amnesty International and me to join you all this evening. And yeah, I'm happy to be able to get this possibility to share some concerns and observations of Amnesty with regard to this, what is now dubbed the Dragnet Law. And in fact, well, we have the similar concerns as Bits of Freedom has, so I won't repeat them all, but just maybe bits and pieces of it. And Amnesty will also campaign for a vote against the law in the referendum, but also to make sure that afterwards the government and parliament can make some improvements in the law. So we are not against or any law that regulates the powers of intelligence and security acts, but we just want a law that provides better protection to our human rights. And central in this debate is the right to privacy and how it's balanced against the protection of our security. And states have the obligation to protect us, our rights and freedoms, which are safeguarded by the democratic rule of law. But the means they choose to protect us and the rule of law should not at the same time undermine those rules and fundamental freedoms and human rights. So just to dive a bit more into the right to privacy, I'm not sure, but you know, it is not an absolute right. It's okay to interfere with it, but only under strict conditions. If you intercept communications of people, that by definition is an interference with your right to privacy. But the question is whether that interference is lawful or not. So conditions apply, and those are strict conditions. And Hans mentioned a couple of them, like, wait, it's breaking down. I think I have a weird head as well. And so, for instance, the interference should be governed by a law. Well, that's where we're standing here, right? And people should, in general, be able to understand under what circumstances their rights may be interfered with. And an interference should always be in pursuance of a legitimate aim. And international human rights standards lay down what legitimate aims may be, something like a threat to our national security. And also, interferences with our right to privacy must be necessary and proportionate. And it means a lot, and amongst others, it means that restrictions that come from surveillance powers must be strictly and demonstrably necessary in the achievement of that legitimate aim. The right to privacy is an important and fundamental right in itself, but it's also essential for the fulfillment of other human rights. Because in the end, a watchful eye over a lot of things that people do, see, watch, or read may have a chilling effect on them. And that means that they are becoming more careful in exploring and expressing ideas. Also, less common ideas or even unpopular ideas. And this is called self-censorship. It restricts the freedom to hold deviant opinions, which are so essential in a free society. Think about the abolishment of the death penalty, slavery, women's suffrage, or gay marriage. Those were once, in the Netherlands, ideas that were, well, to say the least, uncommon and maybe even very unpopular. So, and we don't have, for nothing, privacy at the ballot. And that's because we want to exclude the option that the choice we make for what political party we want to vote is not influenced by people watching over our shoulder. So Amnesty has not been convinced of some of the powers that the law provides the services with our lawful powers. Like what Hans shared with you. But I want to make a further statement on the coalition agreement he pointed to, because after the law has been adopted by the Senate, we saw a process in which our government made some commitments to small improvements of the law. And one was in this coalition agreement Hans pointed to. And, well, in English, it read something like that the indiscriminate and mass gathering of data of citizens in the Netherlands or abroad can, should, and will not happen. Well, to us, this doesn't mean much, while it suggests a lot. And this is because of the word indiscriminate. In a democracy with a rule of law, legitimate government action can never be indiscriminate. Such a government does not issue permits or fines indiscriminately. Such a government does not impose arbitrary taxes. Such a government does not shoot people at random. And whatever the powers the secret services get, they won't be or should not be indiscriminate. But by adding such a commitment into a coalition agreement, they at least suggest that they make an improvement to the law, while in fact they are not. Because if they have left out the word indiscriminate, the commitment would have read mass gathering of data of citizens in the Netherlands or abroad can, should, and will not happen. But that is exactly what is going to happen, as Hans pointed out, that the minister told Parliament with the systematic and large-scale gathering of data. So don't get fooled, is my message, I think I want to say. And then even if it would make sense, or maybe in the spirit of some political parties, I don't know, then still such a restriction should be arranged in law and not in political agreements. Political agreements have expiration dates. They stop when, the government's 4-year periods of reign is gone, and maybe even shorter if they don't even get to the finish line. So, well, again, just don't get fooled. And then the third point I would like to share with you is about the sharing of unevaluated data, raw data, with foreign agencies. So suppose that there's an investigation going on into people who traveled from the Netherlands to Syria to support the Islamic State over there. And there's a possibility that they may return to the Netherlands. As part of this investigation, the Dutch intelligence service intercepts the communications between Syria and a specific city in the Netherlands. This is a realistic example. In addition, the Dutch intelligence service contacts the Turkish secret service and asks for additional information on the persons that may be in transfer in Turkey and traveling back to the Netherlands. And then the Turkish service, they are willing to cooperate, but they want something in return, because that's how it works internationally. They call it, I guess, quid pro quo, if I'm correct, Hans? Is that quid pro quo? That they want something in return? Yeah. So what they want is the communications intercepted by the Netherlands. And it may be the case that these communications contain your messages, or messages in which people were critical about the Turkish government or President Erdogan specifically. And this may be not of interest to the Dutch secret services, but it may be so for the Turkish ones. And especially if you are a person with a Turkish background, this may have consequences for your next visit to that country. For instance, if you are dubbed a Gulen supporter. Well, the Dutch law allows the transfer, the sharing of raw data with any foreign secret service in the world, regardless of their human rights records. And this raw, unevaluated data, this is data of which the secret services, they are not fully aware of the content of the data and the risks associated with it being shared. And Amnesty we see and we know that some governments use private information to oppress people. We see that activists, journalists, dissidents, that it becomes harder for them to do their jobs, which would be perfectly legitimate under international human rights standards. They will be oppressed, they are harassed, and sometimes even prosecuted. And freedom of expression, peaceful protesting, free press are under pressure, and even the safety of individuals may be at stake when such type of data is being shared. And, what are the receiving parties going to do with it? What are they going to use it for exactly? How long will they retain the data? Who are they going to share it with? As a Dutch secret service, you can make agreements about that with that specific service you share it with. But it cannot be monitored because our oversight does not extend beyond our national borders. And even some people in favor of this law don't feel comfortable by this possibility. And, well, I think we share the same position as Bits of Freedom does on this matter. The possibility that the law creates that this raw, unevaluated data can be shared with any other service in the world should be removed from the law at all. So another reason to vote against the law during the referendum on 21 March. So thank you for your attention. Maybe we speak later.